Well, hello there, friends. It is Sunday, February 28th. I believe it is 4:20 p.m. Yeah, bro, it's 4:20 somewhere. Huh. That green herb, man. That old daddy dank herb, man. It is the last Sunday of the month and the last day of the month too. I hope that you folks are doing well. I suppose let's get into it, but let me make sure I start the other phone up for any Q&A stuff since we missed last month. I jotted a whole bunch of them down, so we'll see how long this video turns out to be. Thought I'd make it up to you for what it's worth while it's still, I don't know, novel to do any of those. Not that I'm qualified to answer anyone's questions and give advice or any of that stuff, but oh, come on. Draw, attempt, unlock. Okay. Well, church continues to be good. Like I said, I'm now going on Sundays and on a weekday. It was good. I mean, I see, we'll just call her Yaya, like she said. I don't call her that, I use her name, but Grandma in Greek. I see her all the time. Nice lady. Tries to introduce me to people all the time. So could tell she's quite the regular. And just a really, really amazing human being and woman too, I have to tell you. And I don't normally say that, and you hear that kind of stuff, and it's like, ooh, you know, whatever. But just kind of observing her behavior and how she is. I remember on the weekday service, she introduced me to a bunch of people, and I talked to a number of folks. So it's kind of funny how, I was kind of going and not really talking to anyone, and then there's that one day where I kind of talked to Dave, and then afterwards haven't talked to him since, but I've been meeting all sorts of people. Like, meeting as in, people aren't like, oh yeah, come over to my house and let's have dinner, but just some like more casual conversations, some more in-depth. But I just remember at one point during the weekday service, somebody like wheeled in this elderly gentleman in a wheelchair. And, she kind of went over a bit and chatted with him, and then during communion kind of wheeled him forward. Just little stuff like that you can observe. You can observe in people that, it's that thing where the little things say a lot about a person. Just a really amazing human being. Just a great woman, And, one of those, I was just thinking, like, this really is, if you were to have kids, this is the type of, grandmother you'd want them to have. So it's truly, I see her all the time there, and I'm glad she introduced herself to me and chatted and all that, and somebody like that exists there who's kind of all right, let's chat and all that, I remember at one point, there were a couple of little kids walking around, just kind of seeing the contrast, right? You look at this old dude, not I don't say that in a way of disrespect. It's a a person at the end of their life, and then you see these little kids and the contrast of the opposite of human beings at the beginnings of their life, and you're just thinking about the old dude of like, what was his life like, right? Goals, dreams, triumphs, tragedies, all that stuff. And then you think about these little kids and like what, the long future ahead of them, if you will. I don't know, it was just interesting to kind of think of that contrast a little bit. But yeah, I chatted with a bunch of people at the end of that. So it was good. I don't even remember, did I talk about that last time? I've already kind of lost track. Yeah, there's your, yeah, thanks for giving us your church updates, right? It's funny how that wasn't really meant to be how things go, right? And then Sunday today, another great service. No, it's more and more you get into it, more and more that cynicism starts to fade, if you will. That cynicism, that like, oh yeah, these words, these ceremonies, whatever, it starts to fade and you kind of get into it, but find your own place and just something, you know? It's kind of funny how cynical I used to be about this kind of stuff. And look at me now. Yeah, I chatted a little bit. It was actually like afterwards, it looks like, I don't know if they've just started doing it. They opened up the little store they have and I picked up some stuff. I'll show you, but chatted a little bit with the girl. Don't get any ideas. It wasn't like that. But yeah, cool lady. I was just looking at the icons and stuff, and man, they have a lot of nice ones, and not necessarily that they're expensive, but just kind of like, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool, you know. I would get all of these and just, I mean, I think it would be cool, just cover your wall in them. It would look really nice. But I just grabbed one, was like a cross, and this other one that I got, and I just went up to her. I was like, well, which one would you recommend? And we just chatted a little bit. I don't think she goes too often, but sounds like cradle Orthodox, if they call them that. The ones from birth, their parents took them and all that. But yeah, no, she was cool. It was, like I said, it was just every single time now. And I said there was this one dude I didn't get a chance to talk to, but I've been meaning to, that I see him. I think he's new and catechumen. I don't know if that's what they call it. But one of these days I'll finally be able to chat with him. So it's been, like I said, little by little, just chatting with people. It's been good. So what did I actually pick up at the store there? So I did, and I mentioned an icon. My parents have them, as I'm sure you've seen in some of the videos, but I don't actually have any of my own, so I thought I'd get, this is the one I got. So the cross was pretty good, but maybe a little too, I don't know, it looked a little too dark and blurry. I like this one a lot more. It says, Christ the true vine. Just figured I'd pick something up for myself. It's like a nice large icon. I think it looks nice. Just to have something on the wall. And there's spot for something else. Maybe I'll get a second one at some point. I don't know of what. And I got a, let's see. I got a Psalter. This is, it's the Psalter, according to the 70 of Saint David the prophet and king, translated from the Greek Septuagint by the Holy Transfiguration Monastery. So it's basically the Psalms in their own book. I just figured I'd kind of like to have access to, just kind of on their own. A little bit easier to see the text and read too. I did not realize that the Psalms were so heavily used and contained so much interesting stuff. So yeah, what can I say? What can I say? I'm just repeating myself that it truly has, folks, become about the only source of joy in life. It's just kind of funny how it happened that way. Just the thought of if something in me finally didn't click, I don't know. Maybe just if I didn't have to deal with the back, sleep, whatever issues, there was nothing to push you a bit, but also just something in me this time where it was like, you know, how much more are you going to keep putting it off, like everything else in life, you know, that when is that magical day that you'll eventually get around to thinking about doing it? And then I went and I kept going back despite the initial, like, you know, you're somewhere new, you don't know anyone, all that stuff. And how unbelievably easy, I mean, it still is easy, but it's washing away how easy it would have been to just be cynical about it all. And I'm not here to, you know, I'm not here to preach in any of that. You do, you know, you do whatever it is you want to do. But to me, I guess it was a lot more special and important, if you will, than I even wanted to ever admit. You know, just when I was talking to the girl, it kind of struck me in that conversation of how just to be able to talk to somebody about something like this without kind of that cynicism, negativity, nihilism, whatever, I don't know. It almost felt odd, you know, because I'm so unused to that. Yeah, it was about the prodigal son today. Yeah, I definitely need to find out how do you do a confessional, because I feel like I've been. Please utilize this upcoming Lenten to do a confession and make this indescribable joy your own. I feel like I've been running into that. I've been seeing that theme pop up a lot now of confession, that I should probably start paying attention. I don't know what goes into that, how it works. Do you write down all the stuff you want to go tell the priest? I don't know, but something tells me I gotta, you know, maybe next time I go here, see if at some point I can talk to one of the priests and find out. And if not, I'll just email them and see, like, how do you go about doing that? I said there's some stuff to tell somebody that I've never told anyone else and probably never will. So yeah. So for what about back updates? It's all right. I mean, I'm hanging in there, ups and downs. Better, worse, better, worse. I had a situation on Tuesday where, you know, you're kind of feeling better, things are going all right. I got a little too excited, got too ahead of myself. Tickled the dragon's tail, started kind of working out, doing pull-ups and stuff, kind of overdid it. Did rows, I don't know, came back home, did like bicep curls, triceps, and side delts. I just remember by the end of that, really not feeling great. It was a step backwards for sure, but I'm glad that it happened, because there was a very, very important lesson to be learned there, that, you know, things might let up, but you have to be careful about going back to old ways of thinking and doing. No, once it's kind of time to move on, at least for now, you better move on and forget about it. And it really was it's the kick that I needed. That was the final kick into acceptance stage, right? Of coping, is that with it? Where it's like, first you're angry, then you're sad, then you're whatever, and then you accept it. I don't know how it goes, but that's what it was for me. I finally hit acceptance stage where this is, whether you like it or not, now your new reality, man. You can keep testing it, you can kind of keep fighting with it, or, I mean, as you've now seen, like, you need to forget about working out now and focus on other things, especially recovery. Don't do stuff that's going to make it worse. As you got kind of burned, you know, you went back and started tickling the dragon's tail and got swatted, right? You keep going back, you keep trying, and it's gonna open its jaws, and you're gonna get burned and end up even worse. So it's been okay. I mean, I think the last days I've actually been sleeping, and whenever I use the word sleep, that is elusive at best, is what that is. Has actually been on the floor. So it's this thing where it kind of goes up and down of what feels better. I've been standing. I said my standing strength, my standing ability. It's kind of funny how that really it does become, you know, yeah, no fap. How about no sit, right? It's the no sit challenge. It's I either stand or lay down, and that's really what it's been. You know, and I've been doing that a whole lot more, and I kind of didn't take into account that, yeah, you're kind of doing, you know, you went from spending most of your time, you know, a year of like what, being primarily laying down or sitting down, to now being on your feet a lot. And so you're kind of working muscles in different ways, and that's going to take some getting used to. So it's been, I don't know, like I said, up and down, better and worse. It is what it is, right? At the very least, it's, you know, I'm doing something, right? I'm not just like, I'm not going to go do anything, try anything. So I had did a massage appointment today. I think had good progress. Probably undid some of the damage I did, maybe with the pull-ups and all that. Who knows? So it was good, and I sort of finally learned my lesson that, okay, yeah. And, you know, you can, I think there was a lesson too in like getting a different perspective, right? You can kind of be bitter and upset about how, oh, you can't do what you want to do, whatever, that this is now your new reality for who knows how long, but you can view the upside of like, well, now this is your opportunity to do something else. I mean, you can get good at standing a bunch, right? You can knock that weird little ridiculous obsession, even though I wasn't a great example of it, of lifting completely out of my head, and just focus on other stuff. You know, there are positives. You know, there are opportunities in the situation if you can just see them. Maybe it's cope, I don't know. But, and really, overall, as much as it all sucks, right? Being grateful for it. If you were able to just, I mean, if you were able to just keep on doing what you were doing, keeping on going the path that you were going on, you know, not just with this recent bout of thing, but the last 2 years, if you didn't have something that came around and just cut you down and knocked you on your buttocks, you know, would you ever have a reason to change? To do things differently, to think differently, all that kind of stuff, to seek something else, right? Would I ever have gotten around or any of that stuff of, you know, thinking about God? And they said, maybe you don't find, you know, you don't find that important. I mean, whatever, that is your free will to do whatever you want. But clearly for me it is, and more so than I maybe realized and wanted to admit, right? That the midst of all that sort of nihilism and cynicism, depression, that, you know, you didn't want to come to terms with the fact of what you were seeking. I don't know. mean, would I have ever gone somewhere new, tried to meet new people, all that stuff, if none of this had happened, right? If I was able to just, I mean, for what it's worth, like, you know, finally getting around after how many years to losing weight, you know, if I was able to just keep on what, I'm just going to, like, what, do dips with resistance bands, get drunk every night, keep just laying in bed, staring at my phone, watching YouTube. Well, I mean, I still kind of do that a bit, but you know what I mean. If you didn't have to experience the situation and pain and whatever that you have, would you have ever changed your ways, your path, any of that? So, as much as it sucks, right? And I pray and beg for mercy and healing, physical, spiritual, because I can recognize the, not just, okay, I mean, yeah, this, whatever, blah, blah stuff, but the spiritual, mental, whatever side of it too that existed, even when everything was great, you know, physically, more or less, just the turmoil in here. Would you have ever had to change if you didn't get knocked down? Probably not, right? So that's why, as much as it sucks, just grateful to also have it happen. All right. Let's see. So coding, did I actually finish the track? I did. At least I thought I did. So I guess I'm 99.9% done. I'll just round that up to done. I got to the end. I mean, towards the end, the classes were sort of like web optimization and stuff like that, and going into checking out all the Chrome web tools and all that kind of stuff of like, oh, you see how there's like 20 HTTP requests and it took this many milliseconds. Well, what if we cut down this and this and see how it's faster? It was good. It was certainly good, but I very, very much have hit that point with this. I mean, it's like the people who are telling me that, yeah, I know, man, you probably need to get away from like watching video things and actually like working on projects and looking stuff up so you're actually learning. I very, very much towards the end here hit that point, and some of these final lessons were kind of hard to get through because I'm like, I'm like just not really learning anything anymore. I need to be, but yeah, I got towards the end there, and then it kicked me back to this track that I guess I didn't quite finish. There was like about 30-something minutes left that I'm like, I was just, you know what? I already kind of forgot what this was. I mean, not completely forgot about it once I would take the video course over, but I took that as my, you know what? We will consider this as done. Just marking something off for the sake of marking it off at this point. Like, that's okay. So I did finish. I learned a lot, but at some point I definitely hit that stage of feel like I'm just watching videos and following stuff along and doing challenges, but not really learning anything because I'm not actually doing anything. Just so, yeah, that's kind the next kind of crossroads, right? It's sort of funny. I couldn't help but find a certain sense of humor in it, certain comedy in it, that of course, when I was in a better situation health-wise and all that, I couldn't get this done then, right? Too wrapped up in all that stuff here. And yet it wasn't until just like your health takes a dive again that's when you finish it. It's always me, right? It just seems to be a habit of like waiting until things are bad to actually go get around to doing stuff. Not when they're good. I don't know. I just kind of had a little laugh about it, you know. So it's sort of now at the crossroads of what to do. One of these comments kind of touched upon it that I feel like kind of gets into Q&A, if you will. There were some comments about like, well, you should maybe pursue religious studies or something like that. I always thought you'd make a good priest or something. Unironic says this. Part of me wants to tell you to not give up and stuff like that too, though. I just don't know what you really want. Just want you to be happy, bro. Seems like you enjoy styling websites at least. Yeah, it's all of this has certainly been a lot of just you feel like at a crossroads. That's the only way I can describe it. It has crossed my mind, no pun intended. Like, what if you just forget all this stuff and just pursue religious studies or something? I don't know. Even if not necessarily going to school for anything, but just on your own, diving deep, if you will. But you can't help but feel like that's just falling into an old habit of giving up and quitting on things. That you're taking this thing which is important, at least I think so, but then using it as an excuse to just kind of give up on other things and playing up that old side of you that probably isn't the right choice. And now that I've gotten a taste. Okay. I wish I could show you the completed, you get a badge or something. I don't know what you get for finishing it, but I've got the 30-something minutes left. Maybe one of these days I'll actually redo the asynchronous programming thing, so I actually complete it 99.9%, but let's just, like I said, we'll round it up, right? We'll round it up to completion, that I got it done and got a taste of all that, compared to, the game development stuff that I did. Which would I say that I enjoyed more? If I had to be completely honest with you, I think maybe the game development stuff. But I'm not sure how practical it is, but then it's the, what is practical anymore, right? What is practical anymore? You live in a world where people have become millionaires off of cryptocurrency stuff. I think Christopher Anderson made a video that I thought was very good, where how, he's been all over the place, worked all sorts of jobs, busted his buttocks, and yet he's made more money with crypto because he thought the memes were funny than any of that stuff. So, this is the world that we live in now. And I don't know. But yeah, when it comes to crypto and all that stuff, I feel like I've had that gnawing feeling in the back of my head that's been like, man, do not ignore this stuff this time. Do not ignore it, man. You did it before, and take a look at what happened, both in terms of buying it, and don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the, this is just a meme. It's not based on anything, any of that. Our money as it is isn't based on anything. I think even this whole gold standard is just a meme. Like, well, if we just had the gold standard, well, the only value gold has is the one we give it anyway. well, you can turn it into this or that, like whatever. It's you know, both in terms of buying, but also kind of learning about it with the blockchain stuff. That's why I'm kind of like, well, I mean, I had people tell me to look into the blockchain programming stuff. You know, maybe I should look into that and not ignore it, right? You know, it's that sort of stage where like it's becoming a thing, and Bitcoin is like, you know, don't you know, like the early days when people were talking about it and you ignore it, like maybe this time don't make the mistake again. I did, by the way, buy a good bit of XLM on Coinbase. I know Coinbase doesn't have XRP, but I did buy a bit of that, and I feel like I've heard that name enough from people saying to get that stuff. And I very much take the hodl mindset now. I don't care if it dips, whatever. I am holding on to the long term. So that is the plan. But where was I going on with this? Yeah, I don't think, you know, if I were to quit the path I'm on, whatever that is, and like, okay, well, let's go back to Unity and game development, I would have the same, you know, I would have the same like uncertainty of like, oh, I don't know, then thinking about something else, right? I'd have that uncertainty, have that I'm not so sure about this, that I think I just got to keep on the path I'm on and not waver. Anything else is just giving up, quitting, changing. You know, I said this year, try to get as good as you can with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And, you know, I mean, that encompasses many things that you can do. I just not so sure if I'm really digging making websites, even though I haven't made anything great. I don't know yet. I need to just think of something to do. I don't know if look at like what kind of games can you make with that stuff? Just that might be like good practice for those skills. Just something else, you know? But yeah, I think that's the path I have to stay on, and I cannot waver from that. That is it, folks. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I mean, it looks like from what I saw online, you can do some blockchain programming with JavaScript. So maybe if anything, that'll be a good practice of that skill. So I got to do both. Be on that path, but now pursue spiritual matters also. Walk that fine line of both paths. And you kind of just make peace with, I mean, yeah, if the best that you're going to just be able to do for a while is crawling on your stomach, that's your progress, right? And you're just going to have to focus on getting good at crawling on your stomach, right? Until you do reach a point that you are able to stand. So yeah, I think it's kind of time to start getting into, like I said, I do want to look into blockchain programming, but I do need, you know, like I got to look into game, like what kind of games can you make with that stuff? Well, like what APIs, whatever that you'd need, APIs, frameworks, whatever, like what encompasses into making games with those skills. But yeah, I haven't ate yet, and that was from the Antideron, if you heard my stomach grumble. So I think let's get into the Q&A. Let's see. Well, I'll just say the first name of this email, Warm, you know who you are. Hi, George. I've watched your videos since the Forever Alone Feels days. Man, you're an OG. That was a long time ago. Wanted to ask a few questions for the Q&A. So there's 3 here. Would you ever consider truck driving? They make $30K in the first year and get to travel and be a hardworking man. It's a job I have seriously considered. Honestly, no. I do not really like driving for long periods of time. About 2.5 hours is my limit, and then I just do not want to be in a car. So it has not really appealed to me. So I'll just go to the third question, then get to the second after, since the third one was, would you ever consider jobs that take less than a year to get into, such as tax preparer, health inspector, armed security guard, etc.? I mean, I guess I'd be open to it, but it hasn't really been on my mind. Right now, ideally, I would like to get full-time at my current job. It's even though I do work part-time, and I'm not going to get into specifics, I've been there a long time, and I do a good job, believe it or not. I do make a decent hourly wage, let's just say that. So if I can go up to full-time, that will be perfect for now. That's the whole problem, is I do a good job at my job, but when it comes to my personal life, I'm absolutely awful at it. That might be kind of hard for some people to believe with the history of laziness that I have. I am not like that at work. And I had like a yearly review recently and got a good score, if you will. So I'm kind of hoping with that, plus kind of throwing it out earlier of like, hey, so I know you're not offering hours to me, but if the opportunity exists to go up to full time, I'd be very much interested. So that is the plan right now, ideally. It's kind of taking advantage of somewhere that you've been at and what you've built up there. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. So the second question is, would you ever date outside your race? I have similar politics as you, but I met a Black Caribbean woman and we hit it off and have been together for 1 year and a half. Well, first off, congratulations, man. 1.5 years. That's obviously like your guys are in serious territory, right? So that must feel nice, right? Is it in that stage where it's kind of just nice to have somebody that you can rely on, have in your life, all that stuff. But as for your question, sure, man. Sure. Just kind of that, but like taking a step back and looking at it as a whole. At this point, man, if it's meant to be, God willing. If not, then that is how it is. But I would certainly like to meet somebody that I could just build something with, A family, a home, a future, something. Like, I just see the real benefit of, I don't know, when you kind of have another person in your life that you can rely on, work with, that it is a team, if you will, complementing each other, just getting through the tough times, help, just all that stuff. I can't find the words to express it. Beyond than just like, oh, you like the size of their buttocks or the shape of their whatever, just making something with another person. I don't know. That's what I would want. At this point, I truly do not care about getting laid or any of that stuff. I really, really, really do not care if that, if not, and if I end up staying as a virgin for the rest of my life, I really don't care anymore. I really don't. I don't care about any of that stuff. Because it's all just so temporary, right? It is all just so temporary. And such, I don't know. So, I don't know. That's my answer as best as I can to that. Right, there's a bit of a lengthy one here from Lynching Tree. I take it from your videos that you have stopped working out altogether now due to back issues. Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of don't have a choice. I do have a choice. I mean, I can continue to try to work out, but it's clear all I'm going to do is just make things worse. So I now have to just live with I shouldn't do it now for a good while. But your intermittent fasting meat diet is helping you lose weight. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hover depending on the day, how much I've eaten, how salty was the food, like around 172 to 175 pounds. And I mean, I don't even go for walks. My exercise now is just being on my feet and standing a bunch. So I mean, so I'm grateful for that. When you were younger, you were basically slim too, but didn't help with the ladies. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've always been... Problem isn't even it's like how big or how small. It's just you had no social circle. You were just a shut-in. That's the problem. It wasn't any of the stuff. That's what didn't help. What didn't make the difference. Not to mention with just like not the best of social skills. I mean, it was pretty decent when I got to know people, but primarily, though, no social circle. So now you're back to square one, basically. I know that woman and dating isn't your first priorities anymore, as that urge to procreate lessen with age. Your libido is not that of a younger man anymore, and so that TFL turmoil you experience is much more manageable. Like Kent TV or Oreo Man, you have matured in that regards. Like you had. It is commendable. Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know what... I've got a lot more maturing to do. Also, I would hate to see you become like Skippy the Virgin or Blue Skies Media. I don't watch Blue Skies anymore. I don't really... I mean, if... that's not really my thing of like, if that's like, if I'm just going to talk, the whole a TFL channel or whatever, if that's what it is. Like, I just don't have a interest in that stuff anymore because it doesn't, as I said in one of the earlier videos, because it ultimately doesn't change anything. All the observations you make, all the documentaries and podcasts and videos and this and that and studies and Tinder experiments and black pills and think of all the videos, all the wonderful videos that people have made over the years and wonderful points they've made. And at the end of the day, what did any of it change? Nothing at all, But people can do whatever they want. Yeah, I have not watched anything with Skippy the Virgin for years. I just mostly remember the sort of like seeing on the shows long ago. Even if you don't self-improve through exercise, you should always do so in other areas in your life, be it spiritual, financial, learning a skill. Being stagnant in life is a surefire way. God, I cannot read whatsoever. Surefire way to depression and feeling regrets later in life. Don't be like the idiot I words and self. Now, the reason, like I said, I'm not saying that word, and I say I word isn't to be obnoxious, but because it's, like, in case you haven't realized it yet, that is a weaponized term against you. if it applies to you. That's why I don't like. I'm not going to get into saying it. Don't be like the idiot I words and self-improve for Freud's women validation. I've very, very much learned the folly of that and what a hollow thing that is. You will find Freud's validation you will find it to be meaningless in the end. Basically what I'm saying is to find something you're good at and mog the S word out of the normies. Life is mog or be mogged. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. I'm not so much interested in mogging. I'm interested in cooperating if possible so that multiple people can benefit if that's possible. Now, I realize that you kind of do have to take care of yourself, but no, I'm not going to be like, let me spiritually mog you. No. But hey, man. You believe what you want to believe. All right, so there's a follow-up. But seriously, man, nothing can compare to physically mogging other people. It's better to mog than financially or intellectual. People tend to have a positive opinion of you if you are extremely fit, muscular. Also, physically mogging other people has benefit that carries over to other aspects of your life. First is you will almost never be bullied. People will perceive you as more capable, more intelligent, more hardworking, and sexual dimorphism will make you very appealing to Freud's. Well, I don't really have an option to, and even if I don't, that was on my mind, even though I never achieved it back when I used to be like obsessed with fitness, was like, oh, what clever little exercises and whatever can I do that's going to like build up this muscle part so I can try to look impressive, even though, I've never really stuck to anything. And I just, all I built was a massively large gut, impressively large gut. But I do not view things that way. If you want to, like I said, that's your thing, man. But all I'll say is, you cannot mog forever. The mogger will eventually become the moggee. And then what, man? You do not get to be at the top forever. And then what happens, You're going to want people to have compassion on you. And don't worry, man, I'm not going to think any less of you when you're no longer able to mog people. But hey, that's, I don't know. I'm not like, oh yeah, let me walk in with big muscles so people are impressed, whatever. No, it's not what I'm looking for, man. But hey, you do you. See, there's a question about, can you please do a video about your potential job prospects from learning coding? I have no idea, man. I'm trying to maintain a kind of two things where hope but realism, right? Hope in that, if you just like are super cynical and don't do anything, then obviously nothing will happen. But if you at least start and make an attempt, that's at least something. But you also need to be realistic. As for what that is, an aging 35-year-old with back problems, learning to code, what will that lead to? I don't know, man. If I had to guess, realistically, I will probably need to find some kind of a niche so that I'm not just going down the path that everyone else is. And not because like, oh, I want to be unique or special, but because, well, if you're doing the thing that a whole bunch of other people are who've been doing it for much longer than you, then you got a whole lot more competition and your success is much less guaranteed, right? So a part of it has been is just like, what do I do? What do I do? Maybe I do need to look into this blockchain programming stuff. Maybe that is the thing to seek. I'm not sure. Let's see. What is your opinion? All right, so I wasn't reading usernames. So it was lynching tree for the mog or be mogged. Let's see, the potential job prospects was from Silvio. Let's see. So Matt B says, George, what is your opinion on going to repentance confession? Has it helped you psychologically if you went? I was contemplating on going. Well, it's like I said earlier that it's, I'm familiar with the concept. I've never been, but I've been seeing that idea come up in my life a lot recently that I kind of probably now should. And I plan to ask about it and get soon here and just find out like what does that entail? There's probably something to it, otherwise that idea wouldn't exist, right? Oh gosh, I didn't clip the username on this one, so sorry about that. Thanks for making the time. So for your next Q&A, how much can you bench now? Or if benching isn't your thing, what is your most impressive physical achievement since you got back in shape? Well, I don't bench now. I can't really work out at all. I mean, it's certainly much easier to do pull-ups, right? And when you don't weigh as much. I mean, I think I had worked up to back in late of last year. It's like weighted chin-ups with a 40-pound kettlebell. So I think even like a few reps of just like pull-ups that way. But yeah, no, unfortunately, as I've now described in this, that is something that I will simply have to leave for now for a long while. And that's okay. Because sometimes you got far more pressing things to worry about than losing some strength on your pull-ups or some muscle, right? All right, so there's a thing from Red Skull here. Let's see. Glad you're enjoying church and mingling with fellow Slavs. I don't actually know how many of them are Slavs. Picnic Chad. No. I'm no Chad. I don't even think of things like that anymore. I mean, I'm familiar and find the memes funny. Wanted to ask 2 questions for the next Q&A. The first one, was it hard to stay motivated when I was in college? I mean, not particularly. Since I went for computers, I did have an interest in it somewhat. It was just kind of an issue where at some point they lost some teachers and it became kind of not so great. I think the issue that I had is that I was still in like a little fantasy in my head of like, well, I mean, you're now in college and then like, then what after? That I never thought about that point. So it's kind of like once, the college is done and then what, man? Like, how are you going to go off into the big old wide world? So I think I was still lost in little fantasy land. So I don't know. I didn't have any real issues with it. It was not the best college either, so I don't know how difficult ultimately the coursework was compared to if I had gone to a traditional college. But I did pay it off a long time ago, so for what it's worth, I did not go into super serious debt. And number 2, do you ever look back on your first 2 channels with nostalgia, or do you see them more as mistakes? I miss the first one, Forever Lone Feels. I mean, the first few years were fun, but then I just went down a bad path with the drinking, with the complaining about women and all that stuff, and with the second channel, just far too much into the TFL, I word, etc. stuff with all the whining that I really regret. I mean, sure, if I had kept the first channel, I'd probably have a way more subscribers now. But also, what kind of baggage would there be attached to, I mean, it already exists because I did it, but if that was still there, I don't know, man. I don't really miss any of it otherwise. I really don't. Thank you for answering. Well, thank you for asking. Let's see. Oh yeah, the comment about it was Yarkoffin who left the comment on one of the videos, but then deleted it, about how him and his wife was having fertility issues, but then they heard good news, and left the previous fertility comment and ended up deleting it because I felt it was kind of cringe. Well, it wasn't, man. I thought it was great. And TMI, sorry, wife had a little scare at one point, but overall things seem like they are still good. Going good. Going for second ultrasound tomorrow. Well, I wish you luck, man. You and your luck. You and your luck. You and your wife. It must be great, especially after, what? The reason why I wanted to talk about it, because it demonstrates something very important, which is sort of the other side of things, right? That other side of that coin, that other experience that people have. It's very easy to not see. And there's nothing, and it's not to say that your experience is invalid, but you just have to, you might be very caught up in how you don't have anyone, how tough it is to meet somebody, and there is validity to that. But also, you think of these people, when you start going down this route of like, if only I had a girlfriend, if only this, if only I got matches on Tinder, how wonderful my life would be. And, you think of situations like this where, imagine somebody who does have somebody and then they're not able to have kids, right? I mean, just think of that. How would that feel to you? This is the other side of the experience, or people who have relationships. You think of the people who get divorced, that things fall apart, and if they have kids too, and just the mess that makes, that it's that other side of the experience that's just so easy to miss and not truly get because of you and your difficulties of finding someone. But it's not to say that, like I said, yours aren't valid too, but it is something to think about. I mean, the girl I was seeing last year, seeing whatever we ultimately were, she knows a lot of people, has a large social circle, especially on Facebook, and it was just, we kind of talked about it, of how many people she knows. It was kind of shocking, who are either divorced, about to get a divorce, or are having problems and will probably get a divorce. And these are, and a lot of them have kids, and you think of like the utter mess that makes. And how would that feel, You get sad because you go on online dating and you can't get any replies, and how awful you feel. Well, imagine you had somebody, right? Imagine you had somebody and you wanted to start a family, and they can't have kids. How would that feel like? So, but yeah, just these people, you who on the outside look like they have everything, is just so wonderful. Oh, they're wonderful Facebook photos, and you hear about these utterly miserable, awful relationships that you're like, man, you almost have a certain appreciation for being alone in a way, right? I'm like, wow, so that's the opposite side of the experience, huh? Well, anyway, like I said, man, good luck to you and your wife. I'm hoping, I'll pray for a healthy delivery and the health of your baby, man. Let's see. So one of them was by Sky Ambience. I remember that video you made about the endless grocery list of self-improvement. What do you think about all that now? How have you changed since posting those more despondent videos? I mean, I would say that I reached a certain amount of synthesis with it, where, you know, I had a very cynical, sarcastic view of it, because it felt like, you know, people would just watch your stuff and give you all this, like, just do this, just do that. It really did kind of feel like the whole just get a haircut meme. And so you know, when you are not successful in something, people can look at every little detail of your life and point out, well, see, it's because of this. Now, if you had experienced success, you could be the exact same person with the same faults, and people could literally use the same stuff to point out, well, this is actually why you're successful, right? Oh, well, chicks dig fat guys. Chicks, chicks do like long hair. I could see people saying that kind of stuff if my situation had been different, but I was the same person. But so that's why, you know, I achieved a certain synthesis where there is the whole, you know, like an acceptance, I don't know, where, like, I mean, if what you're doing isn't working, I mean, you know, maybe you do have to change yourself. Maybe you do have to try something different, but I'm not so sure I agree with this whole self-improvement to get chicks, bro. So I don't really think of it that way any longer. So that I'm not a fan of, and I think that is just a very, very empty road to go down. So I'm not sure. I mean, it probably doesn't answer the question. And then the final one here from Est Malus Necessarium. Could you please answer my question? What advice would you give to a 26-year-old in your position? Someone who has had the same thoughts about life that you do at that age, but there are many opportunities throwing themselves at him, yet he is preoccupied with his internal anguish. From your purview at the age you are now, would you believe that 26 is too late to turn things around? So what's sort of funny about that is how, you know, at 35, you know, kind of have similar thoughts. I mean, a lot of it is starting to kind of go away, but, you know, could have the same exact thoughts of, oh, is 35, whatever, too late to turn things around, or all that stuff. And what's funny about it is there are people who are 45 that would look at you and wish to absolutely trade with your situation and how they could turn things around. And there are 55-year-olds that would wish they could trade places with the 45-year-old, and 65-year-olds with the 55-year-old, and on it goes. So looking at you, hearing that comment, you know, it's hard not to feel the same thing, but, you know, I'm not going to say it. I know what you're probably expecting me to say, right? You're still young, you have all the time in the world, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to say that. And the reason why I'm not going to say that isn't because it's not true, but because I'm sure that you've already heard that before, and it means absolutely nothing to you at all, right? I mean, I remember hearing all the same stuff at that age, but it doesn't, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it just doesn't mean anything, right? So if I had to answer it, and I feel I'm not qualified to give any advice to people at all, but instead of viewing it of like, can you still, right? Can you, is it too late? Can you still? Which I find to be, it's kind of a from beginning to now thinking. Instead, you kind of take the from now to end thinking, which is, You know, you're 26 and you're still going to be alive for another probably, what, a good 60 years? So when you think of it that way, it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do with that time, man? What are you going to do with the next 60 years? Which is in that kind of like daily little step that goes through that long period of time. Like, what do you, I mean, it's the same thing that I said to the other person, I think on one of the other videos, of like, you look at this large time ahead of you, which is the only thing that you now have any control over, and that daily step that gets through it. Like, what are you going to now do with this? This is all you have any control over. There's no point in looking at the past. I mean, it's all certainly easier said than done, and it's not meant to be you have all the time in the world, any of that stuff. It is you know, if you keep doing the same thing, I mean, you think you're miserable now, wait until you find out how miserable you can actually get if you literally stay exactly the same and keep doing the same thing. So that's how I would answer it. Don't view it, can you still, but like, what am I going to do with the next 60 years, man? And I don't know what kind of, I mean, I would say, I don't know what these opportunities are if you're kind of lost in that indecision. All I could say is, I mean, you're going to have to just choose one and make the best of it and just kind of deal with that endless indecision and uncertainty where it's now, or it's like, I don't know, do I do game development? Do I just quit it and just read nothing but the Bible and that's all I do with my time? I mean, yes, there's something to it and it's important, but I can't just give up on a thing that I've already started and said I was going to do, right? And you kind of just have to deal with that. Yeah, there's probably going to be moments where you're like, yeah, this is probably the right decision, and many times of having to deal with the like, oh no, this was the worst choice. I don't know, I should have chose that thing. I should have chose this thing. No, that's just now what you have to do. I mean, like I said, easier said than done, right? And if you're not doing it yet, man, take care of your health, right? Not to get women, not to have a six-pack, you know. You just want to make sure that the process of aging does not knock you on your butt. Seek other human beings in whatever way you can. You may, I mean, I don't know what your situation is. I mean, maybe, you know, just assuming you've convinced yourself, you know, you spend a lot of time alone, maybe on the internet, you've convinced yourself, you know, you don't like people, you don't this, and you may be surprised, right? What's actually buried there in your heart. So all I'll say is good luck, man. Good luck. Good luck. That probably did not answer it very well. I apologize. And on that note, folks, we're going to call it there. Gonna head on home. And I will see you next Sunday then. I forgot to mention that I officially started my vacation. You know, it's the whole use it or lose it kind of situation. You use these hours or you're going to lose them. So I cannot help but feel a certain fear and anxiety. I don't know why. It's it was just funny how all these vacation in years past I'd kind of envisioned like, oh, I'm going to be so productive, blah, blah. It's going to be so great. And I never ended up doing any of that. So maybe this is that opportunity now. This time to actually make something of it. Just very grateful for just having a little time off to not think about work and not having to be like, well, you know, I got to save my strength for work today. So mental and physical strength for work to make sure I do that obligation good, right? Very grateful for that. I am very, very grateful I started going to church, because if I went on this vacation and it was just, well, I just sit at home and stare at my phone and wish things were better, or wallow in misery or something else, it would be truly awful. My stomach is starting to grumble. I'm actually kind of hungry. So yeah. Do both, I guess. Read your Bible, read your other books, but also keep on with the coding, man. And don't make things worse. And just, and just kind of accept that this is now your reality, whether you like it or not, that you're just going to have to make it through. It's, to the extent that you've had these issues, it's not going to be, things are not going to go away overnight. Some days will be better, some days will be worse, but you just got to keep on keeping on and make the best of it. And all right, folks, bye-bye. I will see you next Sunday.